Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning to news that the world had changed overnight. Not because of an earthquake, not because of an election, but because the most powerful man in Iran was dead. And America did it. For 47 years, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei ruled Iran with an iron fist. He controlled nuclear weapons decisions, military commanders, the entire government, and the lives of 90 million Iranians. He survived assassination attempts, he survived wars, he survived revolutions. But on the morning of February 28, 2026, he could not survive Operation Epic Fury. This is the complete story. The years of tension, the secret intelligence, the precise moment of the strike, and what it means for our world forever. To understand why this moment shook the world, you need to understand who Ali Khamenei actually was. Born in 1939 in Mashhad, Iran, a deeply religious city, he grew up studying Islamic law, becoming a cleric. When the Iranian Revolution erupted in 1979 and overthrew the Shah, Khamenei rose fast. He was Iran's president from 1981 to 1989. Then, when Ayatollah Khomeini, Iran's first supreme leader, died, Khamenei was chosen to replace him. And from that day in 1989 until February 28, 2026, he was the single most powerful man in Iran. The supreme leader controls everything: the army, the nuclear program, the courts. Even the president of Iran answers to the supreme leader. He had personally approved or blocked every major decision in Iran for 37 years. He once said, and remember these words,
"America is the enemy. It always has been, it always will be."
Under his rule, Iran built one of the most dangerous military forces in the Middle East. He funded Hezbollah in Lebanon. He funded Hamas in Gaza. He funded Houthi rebels in Yemen. He sent weapons to Syria. He backed militias in Iraq that killed American soldiers. Khamenei believed and publicly stated that Israel should be wiped off the map. And quietly, behind closed doors, his scientists were inching closer and closer to building a nuclear weapon. The world watched. The world warned. Diplomats negotiated. Sanctions crushed Iran's economy. But Khamenei did not stop until February 28, 2026. The events of February 28th did not come out of nowhere. They were the result of years of tension, failed diplomacy, proxy wars, and slowly escalating military strikes. It started in October 2023, when Hamas, a group funded and armed by Iran, launched the deadliest attack on Israel in history. Over 1,200 Israelis killed in one day. Israel went to war in Gaza. In 2024, Iran made a move that shocked the world. It fired hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones directly at Israel. Not through a proxy, Iran itself. It was a major escalation. Israel hit back. The region stood at the edge of all-out war. Then came June 2025, what became known as the 12-Day War. Israel launched a massive military campaign against Iran, targeting nuclear sites, missile infrastructure, and military leadership. American forces joined with one crucial airstrike, directly targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. The war lasted 12 days. Iran's nuclear program was heavily damaged, but Khamenei survived. And that fact would not last much longer. By January 2026, something happened inside Iran that changed everything. Iranian citizens, exhausted, impoverished, furious, took to the streets in the largest protests since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. 5 million people marching, demanding the regime fall. Khamenei's response was brutal. Security forces opened fire on crowds. Thousands were killed. The death toll, according to human rights organizations, reached over 7,000 confirmed dead, possibly as high as 32,000. The world watched in horror. Trump watched in fury. By mid-February 2026, the US and Iran had begun back-channel nuclear negotiations in Geneva. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was publicly saying a deal was within reach. But behind closed doors, something else was happening entirely. For months before the attack, the CIA had been doing what it does best: watching, waiting, learning. Intelligence agencies had been tracking Khamenei's movements with extraordinary precision. Where he slept, when he moved, which bunker he used, how deep it went. And it was deep. According to reports, Khamenei's underground bunker was so reinforced, so buried beneath Tehran, that the elevator alone took more than 5 minutes to descend to his level. He had grown increasingly reclusive after the 12-day war in June 2025, rarely appearing in public. Reaching him seemed nearly impossible. But then came the breakthrough. US and Israeli military intelligence had identified something critical. Khamenei and his entire top leadership were going to gather together at the same time, in the same place, above ground, for a series of meetings. Not in a bunker, above ground, and in broad daylight. To this day, it remains unknown exactly how American and Israeli intelligence learned the precise location and timing of Khamenei's meeting, but they knew. On February 23rd, just 5 days before the strike, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu personally called Donald Trump. He told Trump about Khamenei's upcoming meeting. He told him the location. And then came a critical decision. Trump's own senior advisors suggested it would be better if Israel struck first, so that the United States would have stronger justification to enter the conflict when Iran retaliated against American forces. On February 24th, Trump stood before the U.S. Congress for his State of the Union address and issued a public warning to Iran. "We have not heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon." Iran's foreign minister, still optimistic, told reporters just 4 days later that a deal was within reach. He had no idea what was already being planned. On February 27, 2026, at exactly 3:38 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, Donald Trump, traveling aboard Air Force One to Corpus Christi, Texas, gave the order. Operation Epic Fury was a go. In Washington, D.C., it was 2:30 in the morning on Saturday, February 28, 2026. Trump posted an 8-minute video to Truth Social. His words were calm, deliberate, historic. A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. But in Tehran, it was already mid-morning. The city was awake, markets were open, people were going about their lives. And then the sky turned to fire. The joint U.S.-Israeli operation hit nearly 900 targets in the first 12 hours alone. The first wave was surgical and devastating. Israeli jets equipped with American-made F-35 stealth aircraft penetrated Iranian airspace. But Iran's air defenses barely responded. Why? Because they had already been compromised. Days, possibly weeks before the physical strike, U.S. and Israeli forces had conducted an invisible war. Electronic warfare, cyber attacks. Iran's defense communication systems had been quietly, systematically destroyed. When the jets arrived, the radars were blind. The missiles were already in the air before anyone in Tehran could react. The strike on Khamenei himself was described by experts as a precision attack, likely costing tens of millions of dollars. Sophisticated MQ-type drones or manned aircraft made the direct hit on his compound while he was in his meeting above ground in daylight. At the same moment, simultaneously, strikes eliminated IRGC commander Mohammad Pakpour, Defense Minister Aziz Nasirzadeh, Defense Council Secretary Ali Shamkhani, Khamenei's top advisor, 4 senior intelligence officials, the head of Khamenei's military office, and several other top-level commanders. 7 confirmed senior Iranian security leaders dead in minutes. Iran's entire top command structure was decapitated in a single morning. The first hours after the strike were chaos. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman appeared on television and made a stunning announcement.
Khamenei was safe and sound.
Reuters reported that the supreme leader had been transferred to a secure location outside Tehran. Iran's state news agencies Tasnim and Mehr both insisted Khamenei was alive, quote, steadfast and firm in commanding the field. But Israel told a different story. At 2:38 in the afternoon, just hours after the strikes began, Reuters reported that a senior Israeli official stated, quote,
Khamenei was killed and his body has been found.
Netanyahu spoke publicly, saying there were growing signs pointing to Khamenei's death. Trump posted on Truth Social, bluntly in all caps, as he often does, Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. He added, quote, he was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. Working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or the other leaders killed along with him could do. The reaction inside Iran was deeply divided. In some cities, people poured into the streets not to mourn, but to celebrate. Videos flooded social media. Crowds played revolutionary anthems. People chanted, "Long live the Shah," a reference to the monarchy that Khamenei's revolution had destroyed 47 years earlier. In other parts of Iran, thousands gathered in grief, mourning a man they considered a religious and political leader. At nearly midnight Tehran time on February 28th, the truth could no longer be hidden. Iranian state media, controlled by the very government that had insisted Khamenei was alive, finally admitted it. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was dead. Iran's government declared 40 days of national mourning. His daughter, son-in-law, grandchild, and daughter-in-law were also killed in the strikes. The world exploded. In London, anti-war protesters gathered outside 10 Downing Street. In Washington, D.C., demonstrators surrounded the White House. The United Nations condemned the strikes. The European Union called for maximum restraint. But the war had already begun. Iran was not going to stay silent. Within hours of Khamenei's death, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a terrifying statement. The most intense offensive operation in the history of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran will begin in moments. And they meant it. Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and thousands of drones, targeting U.S. military bases across the Middle East simultaneously. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE, Iraq, Cyprus, Turkey. 9 countries hit in one wave. The U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain was struck multiple times. Iran fired 2 ballistic missiles toward the Diego Garcia military base, one of America's most critical overseas installations on the remote Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean. Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest airports on Earth, was damaged. Flights across the entire Middle East came to a near-complete halt, stranding millions of travelers. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow 34-kilometer channel through which 20% of the world's oil supply passes, was closed by Iran. Oil prices immediately surged. Global trade routes were disrupted. The world's economy trembled. Iran had activated its full network of proxy forces. Hezbollah in Lebanon attacked Israel. Yemen's Houthi rebels launched ballistic missiles at Israel for the first time since the war began. Iraqi militias declared American bases across Iraq as legitimate targets. The Middle East was fully at war. But the United States had prepared for this. Patriot missile defense systems intercepted ballistic missiles at low altitude. THAD systems, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, engaged missiles at higher levels. U.S. Navy destroyers in the Arabian Sea fired Tomahawk cruise missiles in return strikes. For 38 days, the war raged. When a supreme leader dies in Iran, there is no clear succession plan. The position of deputy supreme leader had been abolished since 1989. There was no official next in line. The Assembly of Experts, Iran's clerical council, scrambled to appoint a new leader. On March 8, 2026, just 8 days after Khamenei's death, they made their choice. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the assassinated supreme leader. Many Iranians and much of the world were stunned. The son of the man who had just been killed was now Iran's new supreme leader. The U.S. Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, stood at the Pentagon and made a stunning declaration about what Operation Epic Fury had achieved in just over 5 weeks. 80% of Iran's air defense systems destroyed. 800 one-way attack drone storage facilities hit. 450 ballistic missile storage facilities struck. 150 ships sunk. Iran's navy at the bottom of the sea. Iran's air force wiped out. Central Command, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries, Hegseth declared. On April 8, 2026, after 40 days of war, a 2-week ceasefire was announced. But the U.S. military made one thing very clear. A ceasefire is a pause, said General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The Joint Force remains ready if ordered or called upon. The war is paused, not over. The assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is one of the most consequential events of the 21st century. For the first time in modern history, the United States of America openly, officially, killed a sitting head of state of another sovereign nation. That changes the rules, not just for America, for every country on Earth. It raises questions that will define international relations for decades. Is diplomacy still possible when military action is always on the table? What happens to Iran's nuclear materials, the highly enriched uranium that Hegseth admitted is buried and the US is watching? Will the Iranian people rise up and finally achieve the revolution they marched for in January 2026? Or will Mojtaba Khamenei, the son, rebuild his father's iron grip? The world is watching. One thing is certain. The morning of February 28, 2026 is a before and after moment in human history. And it began with a single order given at 3:38 in the afternoon aboard Air Force One somewhere over Texas. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. Donald Trump, February 28, 2026.